And if we don't get to your questions, you can always email questions to us at any time. This Leadership Institute is structured so that your leadership grows over time. We start today and tomorrow's session by helping you see what we want every school that you work with or that you guide to know, so that you need to know what your schools need to know and do in order to guide the schools to do the work of good partnerships. In a sense, what we're doing today and tomorrow is demonstrating what you will do when you conduct your own team training of school-based teams, or when you train district or regional leaders to run workshops for their schools. So the sections and the sessions that we run today and tomorrow really are showing you this is going to be your workshop. And so you'll see that kind of language throughout these sessions today and tomorrow. Meaning, if you pay attention and think about, gee, I could do that. I could do what Joyce and Brenda are doing. We tag team the presentations today and tomorrow. You'll hear from Steve on Thursday with a research spotlight. But these 2 days, the first 2 days, you're going to be listening as if you are running your own workshop. It's not so hard. It's very fun. And I think that you'll be able to see what we're trying to get across so that it can become your workshop with your schools in your districts and regions for your network of partnership schools. I should give you a heads up that NNPS is in a restructuring mode to help you do an even better job than ever before. We are 28 years old as a network, and we've learned a great deal from every district and every region and every state group, and everybody who works with us teaches us something. As we look ahead, we're calling the program NNPS 2.0, and we'll be able to talk a little bit more about that Thursday when we look at your leadership structure and steps you can take to follow up the work we're doing over these 3 sessions. In a sense, or just in a short form, we're really looking to be even more effective with every leader for partnerships in your location or in your projects, so that the great leaders who've come out of our work have taught us what it takes to really do this job well, continuously improving from year to year, how we reach all families in ways that help all students do their best in school. So as we look ahead, Steve and I, as co-directors, are reframing NNPS 2.0 to really be even more effective with every leader who comes into our sphere and tries to really become a super leader in their location. That's our goal for each and every one of you. So as we focus on your schools and what you need to know that schools need to know, we're going to help you see that there's only a few basics. Now, every school, every place is different from the next. That we have to start out by knowing. This is not a little canned program that we open NNPS and out it pops. We're going to share the basics with you for basic and advanced programs of family engagement, but the way the programs actually get created and extended and operated and implemented and improved from year to year is going to be different in every location. A preschool does not look like a high school, and we're happy about that. But to know that, we have to have the basics that are going to be in place in all programs. It's sort of like an armature of a sculpture. The armature may look the same from piece to piece, but how the sculpture turns out and how the program turns out is going to be different. So each of your schools will be able, because of your help, to describe the NNPS model, understand a framework of 6 types of involvement, how to reach challenges to engage all families, not just a few, reach results for student success. If students were not in your schools, there would be no connections with their families. So we know that we are working on all of our connections in order to have students do better in school. We're going to look tomorrow to how to organize action teams for partnerships and to draft a 1-year action plan for the next school year, 24-25. Again, every school is going to link their plan to their own school improvement plan, each of which is different from the next. And we want you to know, of course, NNPS resources that will help you with your work. If you are a district, state, organization leader, your job is going to be to help your schools. So that is where we're going to go together on Thursday. And regional leaders work to help their districts so that the district leaders know what they're doing to help their schools. And you'll see we call what we have in mind a leadership ladder, so that everyone isn't trying to do everything, but everyone has some responsibilities that add up to excellence. Why is it important to do this work? Our studies, and literally hundreds of studies now, really show that students with involved families do better in school. That's been a finding since the 1960s, I believe. And so what we've been studying all these many years is that how do programs help increase the number of families who become engaged with their schools and their students in ways that help the youngsters do better in school. We know if they are involved, kids do better. So now we have to think of how to help that happen equitably, more equitably than often is the case. And our work has really focused even deeper on what happens when you have a program to make it really an effective program. And that is, we link our partnership practices to school goals for student success. We don't just do anything for family engagement anymore. It's not any old thing is okay. It's goal-linked programs and practices that really make a difference in student success. Why is your work important? Our studies and many others also show when you have a leader for partnerships, then the schools have higher quality programs than if you left the schools to figure all of this out on their own. And they address more challenges to reach the hard-to-reach families, the most challenging families, the families who often are unengaged or feel unwelcome. So your leadership for partnerships matters, because if we just let things ride, what we know is what has been happening all along since the beginning of time. Some schools do this work, some schools don't. Some schools do well, some schools do little. And so what we're hoping with your leadership, the reason you're spending 3 days time with us is so that we have more families who are engaged in ways that help youngsters do better in school, in all the schools that you are responsible for. Everybody wants excellent schools. My theory of overlapping spheres of influence says we want excellent schools and strong families and healthy communities. We want you to be able to talk about the underlying theory of what you will be doing. And we call that overlapping spheres of influence. We say, where do children learn and grow? At home, at school, and in the community. When we bring the spheres of influence together, we have learned in our own data and other studies, students do better in school. There still are people out there, even in your communities, who say, if the family would just do its job, we, the school, could do our job. That is a sentence of separate spheres of influence. You do your job, I'll do my job, don't bother me too much. And what we've learned is that leaves students not really knowing who are they listening to and why. But when we bring the spheres of influence together so that they overlap and students have multiple sources of support, then students do better in school by our data and other studies as well. We want you to be able to talk about the research base that was in the first few slides I showed you, and to talk about the theory-driven methods you will be using with your colleagues and supervisors and families and others, so that people know you are doing a purposeful job of organizing good, strong partnership programs. Now, what do we really know about why we're all here? You already know that this is an important topic, or you wouldn't be spending time with us over these 3 days. You also probably know a good deal of what is needed for an excellent program. So why are we gathering together? Because we really need to know how to make this happen, how to organize high-quality programs, and especially how to customize, tailor programs so that they engage all families with diverse backgrounds at all grade levels, in all communities. You can see where this becomes a more difficult agenda. But because we've been learning about this for over a quarter century from many, many sites across the country in every kind of community, we really know this is possible. And so you're here to think with us about how to think in new ways about family engagement and how to make it happen with some basic structures and processes that everyone can use and can customize to place. That's what we want you to have in the back of your mind as we go through these days. So what do? We will use evidence-based structures and processes to help you guide your state level, regional level, district level, and school level partners to help make strong programs that welcome all families, engage all families at all grade levels to increase student success in school. If you use these basic structures and processes, we've been collecting data for over 25 years, we know you will have success in how you put together and grow and improve programs of family, school, community partnerships. All of your locations have policies on the books, official policies that tell schools to do this. But they are policy statements. They don't and can't tell schools at all levels how to do this. And that is our task here over these 3 days. So we're going to start your workshop. We're going to demonstrate it. And what we prepared for you, and I sent to you in your email, is the work and the kinds of activities we're going to use to look at the framework of 6 types of involvement, what an action team for partnership looks like, how to put it together, how to write a 1-year action plan, which we're actually going to do tomorrow, and how to evaluate programs' quality and progress so they get better every year. Most important, the last bullet, to continually improve. This is not a magic potion. There's no pills involved. Things move from wherever they are starting from and get better if we use these structures and processes thoughtfully customized to place. So our first section is to understand the framework of 6 types of involvement or engagement or participation. Use your favorite word. And what we have for you, and I sent you in your email, is called a competency checklist. The competency checklist is something that you're going to be working through with me and Brenda and Steve over time. Each time we offer you some information and put you to work on an activity, we'll come back and ask you, can you do that section of your workshop? And if you can, you'll check that box on the competency checklist, the copy of which you have. When we're finished on Wednesday afternoon, tomorrow afternoon, you will be able to send us your competency checklist, hopefully all checked out, because you can do each section of the workshop. And Brenda will send to you a certificate of completion so that you know we think you are ready to conduct your own team training. So our first topic for today is to know the basics of the 6 types of engagement. This is our framework for helping schools have a complete program where families are engaged in different ways and different places. This is going to be leadership topic 1 on the competency checklist. And we have a friend who pops up every once in a while, the Baltimore Oracle, for our Baltimore Orioles baseball team. The Baltimore Oracle says regional, district, and organization leaders must be able to discuss good types of examples of activities in their own workshops. So you'll see that I'm going to show you some activities that we've seen are good working activities. When you do your workshop, you can substitute your own activities that you know about or learn about, or you can use our examples. One of the things about being a partner in our professional development network, NNPS 2.0, so you can use our materials, you can ask for them, we'll send them to you, and you can adapt them as needed so that it makes sense in your location. The first section topic before we send you off to a Zoom room in an activity is to use the framework of 6 types and to solve challenges to reach all families. So people can do an activity and then we don't want people to complain. We tried this activity and we didn't reach anyone who was really a harder to reach family or a distant family or a new family to our neighborhood or some other challenge that is present in every school and always has been, probably always will be. So meeting challenges is part of the growth and change of a good partnership program. The 6 types of engagement, which I'm going to show you deeper, so we're just going to name them now. Engage parents in different ways and different places. Type 1 parenting is not about telling parents what to do. We do not do that, but we help parents understand child and adolescent development and answer questions parents have about their school children and the schools they're in. But also every type of engagement in our framework is 2-directional. We help parents understand their schools and their children. We help the schools understand their families. Type 2, communicating. Everyone talks about 2-way communication. How do we really do that? And how do we focus our communications on school programs and children's progress? That's what parents tell us they want to know most about. So everything is communicating, of course. Every type and every activity we're communicating. But this communicating type 2 is about school programs and children's progress. How well are we doing that with all families in whatever language and so on? Type 3 volunteering has to do with the volunteers we know about at school or in the classroom, in the library, on the playground, wherever. And we add to that definition of volunteering audiences. Parents who come to your school's sports activities, drama productions, art shows, choral groups, they're volunteering their time to support children's activities and learning, and they can be named volunteers. We'll show you how that's done. Learning at home is mostly about homework. The most common question we get about family connections with curriculum. How do we help on homework? How do we help with course choices, building children's talents, learning at home? Type 5, decision-making, has to do with hearing from all families, not just a few who typically really become involved in so-called decision-making. How do we broaden that so that it really involves and enables all families to be engaged in ways that contribute their ideas to decision-making? And collaborating with the community, type 6. We know about community partners. There are now community schools as well. And this is also two-directional. How communities help our schools with resources and services, how the schools and students and families help the community in identifying problems and assisting the solution to those problems. So these 6 types become a comprehensive partnership program, and good school programs of family engagement and community partnerships have activities over time and over the years that get better and better, including all 6 types. So we don't do type 1 one year and add type 2 the next. It's really a comprehensive program that gets planned, which we will do together tomorrow, so that we use all 6 types in ways that are going to link to school goals. Let's look deeper in each of these types real quick. Then we're going to send you to the Zoom room, because what I want you to be thinking about as we go through these types of engagement is, what do you know is happening right now in your schools or schools you know about that's really very good? We're not starting in any school that we've ever seen or been in at ground zero. Schools do things well right now, some things, maybe 1 or 2 things, maybe more. So you have a store in your mind of good activities on each of the 6 types of engagement. I want you to be thinking now of the schools you know, or the schools you've been in, assisted, or even perhaps run. And so let's look at what these types of involvement really include, and then we're going to ask you to think about some you know about already. Type 1 parenting has to do with the basics that families typically do, but sometimes they need help with housing, health, nutrition, clothing, safety, and things that parents really are expected to do, but not every parent can do without some assistance. And so that becomes part of a good partnership program. How do you know? Well, you have to know your schools, and you'll see some examples in a moment. Look at the last check mark on this little section. Informations to help schools know their families. If the schools don't know their families, they will not have engagement activities that are either sensible or needed. So we want information to go in both directions, and knowing what parents wish for their children, what their dreams are for their children, how they're helping their children, what they need now and later, is part of type 1 parenting. Every type of engagement has 1 or more, maybe 100 challenges. And type 1, we have many challenges in the handbook that you receive when you become a partner in NNPS 2.0. But the challenge, one common challenge, is to get information from workshops or messages about parenting and all of the things you see up above, How do you get that to all the families who need or want it, and especially those who cannot attend workshops or meetings at the school building? COVID helped with that because now in NNPS, we've learned that most schools, nearly really more than 90% last year, said to us that they are going to have at least hybrid meetings and workshops for parents, where they're giving parents an option for in-school attendance or online Zooming attendance. And so really people have learned from the last wicked several years since COVID that there really is some silver linings that we've learned about that include getting all parents engaged, even if they cannot come to the school building. But that's a big challenge, and it remains so. So we want to think about how to deal with that. Here's a couple of examples that schools have been doing in NNPS for a long time. Some schools have the equivalent of the Tiger Coat Closet Coat and Clothes Exchange. Say that 10 times real fast. And that really is a way to help parents get children slightly or gently used uniforms or coats or mittens or boots or whatever when they grow quickly through the school year, so that they don't have to pay and buy new clothing every couple of months. They exchange it at their clothing exchange or their coat closet. This is can be arranged in many different ways and is so at the elementary level mostly. At the high school level, most of our schools at the high school level conduct some kind of financial aid or financing post-secondary education options with their families and students. At the high school level, a financial aid workshop, you may have seen a lot of information recently of how the government is improving the FAFSA form that people have to fill out for college financing. That's a big topic. In some of our schools, they actually help parents and children fill out those forms as part of a workshop. All kinds of ideas. Type 2 communicating. Every school right now does some communicating or tries to with all families in report cards and notices, often many, many notices now with email and with their websites and Facebook and all kinds of social media are reaching families in new ways to help parents understand school programs and children's progress. We do a pretty good job of school to home communication, but type 2 includes two directions. So it's home to school as well. And there we often need to improve how parents can give and exchange questions or ideas or ask about policies or consider how they really are getting information about their children's progress and the programs at school that are available, not just to a few students, but how do all students access those programs? To meet the challenges, we not only need to have kinds of new communications, but how do we make memos that go out, or how do we make print and non-print communications clear to families who speak many different languages? In NNPS, almost every school and district that we work with and have for many years have multiple languages, sometimes in districts up to 100. And really, it is a challenge to reach all families. How do we get that to happen under the kinds of budgets and constraints that are present in our schools? That's a challenge. We can't figure it out with a magic pill, so we have to figure it out with some good thinking. And there's no end to the creativity with which you, your schools, and other schools really are addressing these challenges. Here's a high school that wanted ninth graders and their families who are entering the high school to know all the things that are available in their extracurricular clubs and programs. And they just ran a big festival about the best things that are going on in their high school. a good, happy way of helping people see what is going on here and how can my child, not just other children, how can my child take part in this club or this activity or this sport or that one. Recently, we've seen an increase in student-led conferences, student-led parent-teacher conferences that are being conducted by the student, or parent-teacher-student conferences where at least the student is present. And so we know this is a good way to help students feel the importance they have in their own education, their agency. And so some schools work at this to help even kindergarten students run the parent-teacher-student conference. That's something to think about. And most of these activities come from our books of promising practices of partnership that Brenda has been editing for many years. They're all available to you online, and you can see how they really are organized, what they've done, what they're learning, how they get better each year, and so on. Type 3 volunteering has to do with the ones we know about in the school, on the playground, in the library or media center, and the volunteers that we add to this program of audiences who celebrate student activities by coming to support their children. And this is really something that makes schools come alive and be very joyful places. The challenge here on many volunteer activities is to recruit widely. We don't want just the same 5 volunteers all the time. We want to figure out ways that parents can get involved, be recognized for their support and involvement over time, either in the school, in the classroom, at home, in the community, and as audiences. So there's a lot of challenges that can be creatively solved in that space. One of my favorite activities is called Best Goes to Work, which had their mascot in those days take a disposable camera to a workplace of a dad, mother, grandfather, neighbor, somebody who was working, who would take the bear and camera and take photos of all the jobs in that location, so that on a career awareness bulletin board, people could see in the medical field, it's not just about doctors. There's a lot of different jobs that are available in a hospital or in the clinic, or there's a lot of different jobs available on a construction site. And youngsters can begin to expand their career awareness in a very helpful way with volunteers who are not in the school, but are helping out in their community and in their workplaces. A lot of schools have volunteer surveys that parents sign up to tell what is your talent, what is your time, and how can we reach you when you want to share one of the ways that you can provide richness to our school. And so everybody has varied hobbies and skills and talents, just have to find ways to fit them in curricularly so they are goal-linked exchanges or just plain celebrations of students and how they can build many different talents by hearing what others in their families and communities are doing as volunteers. Type 4 learning at home has a lot to do with homework. And one of our most kind of challenging questions that schools really need to address is when parents say, how do I help with homework? They do not mean, how do I teach every subject to every student at every grade level? Parents do not want to teach 7th grade math or 9th grade science. They want to help their youngsters zero in on the homework chores or skills or opportunities. So we want to think about how people help with homework, how parents and children know what skills are needed to pass a grade, to pass a subject. How can they help? How can they motivate? How can they monitor? How can they encourage their children to do the schoolwork that's going to help them do their very best in school and meet their full potential. The challenge on homework in our work has been to design interactive homework, we call it, our TIPS materials, that help teachers assign homework that youngsters, not parents, that youngsters conduct to talk with parents about something interesting they are learning in class. These materials, literally several hundred examples from teachers that we've worked with, are available to you at no cost as a partner in our network. Here's a couple of examples. This is a kind of a basic homework activity that one of our schools really organized very well, a blue ribbon homework center where parents signed a kind of contract that said, we'll have a quiet place for our youngster to do homework. And in this case, the principal went to the school and put a blue ribbon up on the wall near the quiet place for homework, had a family home visit at the same time to talk to and meet with families about homework, about their questions about school. And he told us this was a highlight of his career. We don't tell every principal in the schools that you're going to work with, they had to go and do a home visit. That would not go over very well. But there are all kinds of ways to design and develop blue ribbon homework centers or something of a similar name. And they're all people, kinds of people who could, in fact, do some home visits. So it's something to think about when we talk about type 4. This is a kind of reference to our TIPS activities, the interactive homework that is the student's responsibility for a conversation with a family member. Type 5 decision-making has to do with all the people on all the committees and groups that are in your many schools. So we have PTAs, PTOs, we have parent organizations of other names, we have all kinds of school and district committees. And what we want to make sure is that they are populated by people who have different views and perspectives, who represent the communities you serve. And so that's the challenge of how to make that happen so that our racial, ethnic, linguistic, socioeconomic, and other groups are represented in the decisions that come up in every school. One of our schools wasn't sure who their leaders were, their parent leaders or decision makers and so on. They had a dinner for people who might be interested in being a leader, and that's always a good way to orient parents and find out, well, you think you might be interested, now let's see who really would like to step forward. This activity, called the Room Parent Program in an Indian school in Wisconsin, really attracted my attention because they changed the definition of room parent. Some room parents help teachers with their youngsters read aloud, do some spelling words, or help with a bulletin board, or be helpful to the teacher. This school had a room parent whose task was to help the teacher link to all parents in the class, which is a burden on teachers' time, and certainly a room parent for family engagement could be quite helpful. Finally, collaborating with the community. We all know about business partners, but there are many, many connections to community with folks who have varied resources, skills, and talents and opportunities for students to get engaged, whether it is the health services in the community or senior citizens or others on this list, faith-based organizations. There really are many resources in every community. And many of the schools in NNPS and those you work with have the other direction, where schools and students and families identify issues or problems in their communities, philanthropic ways and other helpful person-to-person ways to help this community solve those challenges. Very exciting because youngsters love to be part of solutions. And in their community, it really helps them to get to know what's going on in our place. The challenge, one challenge in communities, is to help students and families know the community resources that are available to all, especially summer learning and summer talent development and growth activities that some people seem to know about, but not everybody. So a lot of the challenges we've been talking about are equity issues, reaching all families, not just a few. A lot of the schools, high schools and middle schools in NNPS, do some kind of college and career readiness conferencing or meetings to help people from the community come in and talk to students about their jobs, the schooling needed for those jobs, the opportunities in the community for internships, and so on. And one of my favorites recently has been called Read for a Bead, which is a way that this school happened to have book reports that were done orally out in the community with volunteer community partners, 25 of them for this one school, who would listen to youngsters about the book they read. And if they came in to talk about a book they read, they received a bead from the community partner. Collecting 4 or 5 of these beads, they could put them together on a necklace or bracelet and have a beaded kind of identification that they were out in the community talking about books. This really included all the children in, I think, 4th and 5th grades in the school. It was enjoyed by the students, the families who went with them. The community partners were ecstatic. They wanted to do it again. So there's always a creative, really interesting activity that is going on. Okay, we just talked about the 6 types of involvement, engagement, participation very quickly. And you were listening to say, yeah, I know about that. I've seen that before. Steve is going to send you to a Zoom room to talk with each other about what we call jumping hurdles. No school is at 0, so you've seen some of these types of engagement and you've seen some very good activities. In the Zoom room, we want you to pick a recorder, one person who has a copy of the activity that we sent to you, or you can write it down on paper. Steve is going to put this activity in a link in the chat box if you didn't bring this with you, so you can look at it on screen in the chat room on your phone or on your computer. And I want you to talk to each other about one example that you have seen or led in a school for family and community engagement. That's the top line. A challenge that arose in order to make this a successful activity. A solution to the challenge. How did that school not only design the activity, find the challenge, but also solve it? And what would you suggest would be a next step to improve the activity if that school did it again, conducted it, and made it better? And then if you have a memory about what we just talked about, which type or types? Often different activities have more than one type of involvement or engagement that they are activating. So a successful activity, a challenge that arose, a solution to the challenge, how to make it even better, a next step, and what types or type was this activity in your mind? Okay, everybody is back. I hope that you had an interesting conversation about some existing good work that you are aware of on the 6 types of engagement. So I am looking for 2 volunteers. It can be the recorder from group 1, 2, or 3, who would be happy to volunteer to share what you wrote down on these 4 lines? What was a successful activity that somebody knew about? What was a challenge to that activity? How was the challenge solved? And what would be a next step to improve that activity even further? And if you can, what type or types of engagement were involved? Is that Joey I see without that unmapped?
Oh boy.
Are
Okay, I meant to.
you,
Sorry about that.
oh, we're gonna volunteer you, Joey. Who is
Well, actually, we had Nicole. We
I
had
can do it.
decided that Nicole should volunteer. We
All right.
voluntold her,
okay?
and I will get rid of myself.
We
Yeah,
love
I'm happy to do it.
we love voluntoling people. We do it all the time. We need a second volunteer. Who else will help us? So who in your group? Which group were you in, Nicole? Do you remember?
Group 1.
Group.
Okay, how about somebody from group 2 or 3? We're gonna let them listen to you, Nicole, and then they'll somebody will pop up. So unmute yourself and tell us on these story on these 4 lines.
Sure. All right, so I was involved at a school that had a large population of grandparent primary caregivers. So about a third of the school had grandparents parenting again. And we were finding that there were a lot of challenges connecting with our grandparents. They were having challenges with the parenting. So we created a grandparent kinship group so that our grandparents could come together on a very continual basis to get support, to get education, just to be able to spend time with each other. The challenges that rose for us were some of our grandparents didn't drive. And so sometimes the transportation was an issue. Sometimes weather impacted that as well. We are rural where we are, so that contributed. When we tried to do a hybrid model, technology could be an issue either because of lack of skill or lack of internet. Childcare was an issue. If a grandparent also had a younger grandchild that they couldn't bring with them, the lack of childcare played into that. So, and then another issue that arose was some mistrust. It was our administrators that were leading it, and some of our grandparents didn't trust the conversations with administrators on school grounds. So a couple of the solutions that we implemented were to move the meeting off the school campus and into a community center. We slid our administration out of it and had the district social worker take over that meeting so that the grandparents felt like they could talk a little more freely, that they weren't worried about incriminating their students if there was a question that they had. We also brought a community member in. We had brought a local, our police force in, and they came in and worked with our grandparents with some of the things that they were concerned about. One in particular was drug paraphernalia. Doing some in plain sight, hidden in plain sight activities with them. And the next steps that we used to improve were the ones I've talked about: moving it off school site, having the social worker work with them. And then our next step was to provide childcare. That's something that I think that would have improved upon this. Somebody in our group also suggested providing dinner. And then also doing some training or PD with our grandparents so that in the future, they could actually be the facilitators of these meetings instead of having a district facilitator.
Excellent. You know what excellent is? Excellent. That was excellent.
Yes,
so, and last year, one of our evaluation questions for schools was who are the most challenging groups to work with in terms of looking for equity. Steve, somebody's in the waiting room. And out of 3 groups that were most challenging, they were the homeless, those who were in deepest poverty, and grandparents. So schools across the country, among 300 schools, would agree with your attention, and very alert attention and very responsive attention, Nicole, to the challenges of engaging grandparents. That was really not only a good report, but also good work. And so I hope that that school and other schools will continue to address grandparents who are raising their children, it is apparently, according to our data, quite a common happening across the country. So that was an excellent example. And what type or types, Nicole, what type or types of engagement were involved in what you were reporting?
So the parenting piece was by working with our grandparents to work on some of the skills that they were concerned with. Namely, one of them was the worried about the drug paraphernalia that they were not able to identify and not sure what was coming into their home. The communication, opening up that two-way street of communication between the school and the grandparents.
Absolutely, that was a very important one. So, and there probably were others as well.
Yes, yep, absolutely. And then the other one we had was collaborating with the community. So working with our community center and then also working with our local police department to have them come in and do work with our grandparents.
Excellent, excellent. You know, this is a really good example of something that had grown over time, gotten better, identified challenges, met the challenges, got it better. And I'm very sure that you have ideas of how it would even get better still. And if you solve that one, we make it better still. So a good idea can improve from year to year. Is there another volunteer, brave volunteer, who had an activity discussed in group 2 or 3?
I'm happy to jump on
go
that.
ahead.
If we were 2 or 3, so
Jason,
Yeah.
what did you have? What did you hear about, and how did it play out on these 4 lines?
so we actually talked about 2 different events that somewhat got connected at the end there. So the majority of our conversation we talked about we had a truancy attendance issue in our high school, and trying to address that. And the event basically was, and Michael, jump in here at any point if I butcher this too bad, but we invited and sent letters out to the kids that were kind of on this list in some serious issues with truancy, to come into an event where they heard from speakers from probation, and I think more along the lines of, hey, this is getting kind of serious. So delivering that hard message, but they also provided community organizations that were made available to the parents and families and the kids that were attending, just to kind of discuss and share with them what kind of wraparound options were available to them. You know, trying to be getting them connected to resources potentially to help them with any causes that may be leading them to be truant. Another member in our group, Frank, was discussing about a mentor program that the elementary school had put on, where they identified maybe some kids that were having some discipline problems, and they brought them into this mentoring program. And it was a kind of a positive thing that the mentors would be given activities to have with their mentees. And that became something for the children to look forward to. And so it became a positive thing to perhaps kind of help them work through thinking about behavior issues, those kinds of things. And so we actually kind of connected the two at the end and said, hey, it'd be neat maybe to consider a mentor activity for the high school kids, that, you know, before they get down to that tail end there, where you've got kind of the major truancy concerns and you've got probation officers and things you're talking to. What about a mentor program for them? And how do you put that into play more on the proactive rather than at that last stage? So,
And would that help attendance?
yeah, right. But I think there's some positive things there, in that, you know, it wasn't just about reading them the riot act, so to speak, it was, hey, we've got other supports here too. And then Michael talked about, you know, there were some actions in place for some of these students, and that those would be basically no longer pursued by them attending. So it was a chance for them to kind of have a fresh start after the event, which is, I think, a positive thing.
Good.
So I think talked about challenges, and you can think about those off the bat, like, okay, we don't want to be getting a letter saying you're in deep trouble. How do we become more proactive and positive, rather than getting the first communication or seeing the first communication being a negative one? on solutions. I think one of the solutions that we talked about is, hey, we were excited about the positive of having the community and wraparound services, how to get the word out to more to be involved. Talked about the mentor as a solution as well. And then I think in terms of types, I think we hit all the types of involvement, but what we talked about was maybe the sequencing, right? You know, trying to get the families involved in the community early in the process, again, before it's at the end of the run there. But I think all types were really involved, and to think more about the two-way communication, I think was an area that it was happening because everyone was there, but how can you have that two-way communication happen before you get to that moment? So,
you know what? Excellent. 2 excellent volunteers. How did we luck out so well? So this was very good, Jason. Thank you very much. And, you know, across the country, making the morning news programs for weeks now has been the persistent absentee problems that schools are facing across the country, and especially at the high school level. And so if the schools that you are working with in this program of building good partnerships are typical, then you'll see tomorrow on page 3 of your action plan, that could be focused on attendance, improving attendance. And what Jason and his group really was showing us is making this positive and not punitive is really the key for moving forward on improving attendance. You know, what we hear about on the bad days is there were places several years ago, I hope not today, that were imprisoning parents of children who were absent. Somehow that was stupid to begin with, and remains really not the best way to go about anything having to do with improving attendance. So Jason's example is a really good one and tells us again and again, no school is really at zero. That doesn't mean that the schools that we heard about from Nicole and Jason have comprehensive partnership programs, but they sure have at least one good activity that they've worked on. They've shown that they've attended 2 challenges and that they can see that their activity can improve, if it's a good activity, from one year to the next. So this was very thoughtful reporting on your part, and I'm sure in the other group as well. To conclude this first segment of our workshop for you, to show you what your first segment of your workshop will be when you are preparing school teams to do good work, you will want them to do jumping hurdles because they are dying to tell you about a good activity that is in their wheelhouse. They are already doing something, and they really hear about the 6 types. They see this activity and they say, I want to tell you about something we do so that you know we are not at ground zero on family engagement. It's a very important beginning of your workshop that goes through several hours of the day before they are ready to write their own plan for the next school year, which you'll see how that all works out tomorrow. So I want you to take your competency checklist. If you have it with you, you can do this right now with me. If you don't have it with you, you're going to remember to print it out and look at leadership topic number 1. Know the framework of 6 types of involvement and solve challenges to involve all families. What this section says gives you a little checkbox. I understand leadership topic number 1, the framework of 6 types of involvement and solve challenges to reach all families. I am ready to make presentations on this topic for educators, parents, and other audiences. I will prepare school action teams to understand the 6 types and the need to address challenges to reach all families. So all you have to agree, Did you get the point of the first section of our workshop showing you your first section of your workshop? You'll check box number 1. If you have it with you, go ahead and check the box. Okay, Brenda, it's all yours.
Okay. Wow, you have a brain full of information right now. We're getting ready to fill it a little bit more with results. No one invests time, effort, or money into anything without expecting results. So this segment, we're going to talk about reaching results for student success. We have a rationale behind pulling together our work, the types of involvement, and connecting it to the work that we have to do anyway. So the 6 types by themselves are great, but they're even greater when we can align them with our school improvement goals. So it doesn't appear to be extra work, but it is the work. So the 6 types of engagement can be designed and implemented to contribute to each school's specific school improvement goals. And here is our little Baltimore Oracle again. And he says that district, regional, and organizational leaders should always focus on results for students as the main reason for family and community engagement. So the results for student success is what we're after. This is competency checklist number 2. And we'll see how well you can do with it when we're finished this segment. So what are the benefits of partnerships? There are results for everyone involved. There are results for all stakeholders. There are results for students. There are results for parents. There are results for teachers. Let's take a look at them one by one. As a teacher or an administrator or as an interested party, what kind of results would you like to see for students because of your hard work on developing what we call comprehensive programs of partnerships? Let's take a look at these bullets. This is the time for you to participate. So I'm going to need you to unmute yourself when you have an answer for this one. Look at those for this. We have 6 bullets for the students. Which one really jumps out as, but I really would like that to be a result for our students because we're doing this work? Which one really sticks out for you? And you can just go ahead. You don't have to, raise your hand or anything. Just jump in and unmute yourself and say which one really looks the best or something that you would like to see happen with the students. Anybody?
Better social skills and adjustment to school.
Yes, and especially at the high school level. Yes, very good. Anyone else?
I mean, honestly, I think in New Hampshire, we want to see all of these.
Yes, we do want to see all of them, but sometimes some of them, give us a little bit more emphasis on why we really want to do it, because you are going to see the results in all of these if you plan your programs just right.
Yeah, I think for the scope of our grant specifically, the first 2, higher grades and test scores and better attendance, and then maybe the third being tertiary.
Yes. And I like the way you put that, Allison, because when you look at the scope of the grant, you're looking at the work that you're charged with doing and how will these results help with the work that you're doing. And that's a good way of putting that. Great. So let's move on to the next one, Joyce, please. So let's take a look at results for parents. There are 5 bullets here. Which one would you like to see happen as a result of your work for parents?
I think one of the things that I'm thinking about is obviously I think the FAFSA has created a lot of anxiety for parents.
Yes.
And I think that kind of plays in with the self-confidence too about guiding their student, through school and understanding all of those pieces. That popped up to my, kind of top of mind for me is just, and maybe that some of that is a stronger sense of support from the school and other parents as we work through some of these challenges as they arise. It's not just the FAFSA. It might be things like not understanding dual enrollment or not understanding what happens when a student racks up a whole bunch of absences. What is that? What is the school response? What is the local court response? So different things like that.
Yes, that's excellent. That's an excellent analogy of what you see going on there. Very good. Thank you. What about the appreciation of teachers' work and skills? A lot of times people don't feel appreciated, but when you begin to do this work where you're engaging parents, you're engaging, and the school is being engaging of the parents and engaging the teachers and the staff, you see things in a different light, and you begin to appreciate each other's work and the work that they're doing with the children. So that becomes important, an important piece too, understanding each other and understanding the needs of, to support one another in this work. Let's take a look at what's there for teachers. I have 5 bullets here. Which one jumps out for teachers?
Yeah, again, I'll just speak to the SFBC grant. I think, obviously increased respect. We're looking at change in attitudes and behavior over time, and increased understanding. I would say those kind of are very similar. And then of course the greater readiness to involve families in new ways. Those would be the top for this specific to our grant. I will say that we actually use the use of community resources as a means to influence the top 3 bullet points here.
Exactly. And I remember even when I was in the classroom and we were engaging families and all, and listening to even the comments that the parents were making. Oh, I respect you all now. I will support you any way we need to support you, because I don't think I could be a teacher. And they were seeing those things. And it's not until you have them engaged and have everybody in the thick of it together that we begin to understand what each one needs to help our children to be successful. And they understand too that no one of us can do it by ourselves, that we must do it together in partnerships. Joyce? So what we've done here is we looked at the goals that schools will work on in their school improvement plans. And we looked at what kind of activities per type could we do to help us realize that goal by the activities that we do. And I want you to pay attention to the yellow ones as they light up. We're going to look at type 2, 4, and 6 for this one. And I always say to schools when they're writing their plans, if you're going to improve academic achievement for the boys and girls, whether it's reading, math, whatever, type 4 is definitely something you want to have going on your plan, because that's where we actually connect the classroom to the home through homework, home assignments, and things like that. So I know what's going on in the classroom. I know what my role is to support that, and how and then teachers will know how they need to support us. So let's take a look at those 3 and see, did anyone have any of these to happen in any of the areas where you were, maybe in a school where you were, or you maybe in your program that you were working with a specific school, or a group of people or students maybe where you did some of these activities?
I was involved with a program called I Read, and we volunteered and went in and did reading with the students. And what we found was when we got books that the child was actually interested in, we found out that the child really could read better than they thought they could read. A lot of times they just interested or weren't connected, or no one really spent time with them. So they were reading really above where they thought they were, but the problem was they weren't really interested.
Exactly. And if it's something I like, I'm going to read it. So yes, most definitely. And look at the donations from the business partners of books for classrooms, tapping back into the community partners in ways that support school improvement goals. So and oftentimes when we're doing reading, Business partners don't mind purchasing books for the students to take home. It could be take home readers or whatever the activity is that you have, but therefore it could be for the school library or they could be for their home library. So there are all other ways of increasing reading with the support of other people. And then those parent teacher student conferences that we focus on just reading instead of trying to do everything, trying to talk about everything on the report card. If we're focusing as a goal on reading for our school, then let's let this the first maybe parent teacher conference and student conference be around reading, and they talk about that so we can really get parents infused in understanding what it is that we want to do as far as increasing reading is concerned for the boys and girls. But these are not the only ones. We have many, many other ideas for each of these types of involvement as it relates to reading. Another goal might be math.
Steve, in the waiting room, Steve. Go ahead, Brenda.
Oh, okay. Another one might be math. Looking at what we're going to do with increasing or improving our math skills for our boys and girls. I like to look at the type 5 on this one, where the PTA or the PTO sponsors a family math night for fun and learning. Oftentimes we have our PTA or PTO doing some other fundraising things, but have we attached those fundraising things to the goals that we're working on, such as improving math, reading, science, what have you? Those kinds of things really strengthen the work that we're doing, and it gets everyone involved. Volunteer math tutors to assist students who need one-on-one tutoring and help with specific math skills. Those are the things that we can do around the 6 types. The workshop for parents. I guess you say, well, what's a type 1 for math? Well, workshops for parents to explain what the new math standards and tests are. Parents need to know what their children need to know by the time they finish the grade they're in. What tests are they going to be given? How do I need to prepare them at home? What are the things that parents do to get their children ready when they come to school to do well in these subject areas? And so when you look at all of these things, these are things that activities that we can do to improve our math skills. And of course, there are many, many others. That would be like the first 2 pages of a plan. Goal number 1, academic goal number 1, and academic goal number 2. And we're going to talk more about that on tomorrow. Next one, Joyce. And this is one that you've already talked about, was improving attendance. And this is looking at the middle school examples for improving attendance. But just because it says it's for middle schools does not mean it could not be for elementary school, or it could not also be addressed at the high school level. But how many people have had or have seen recognition postcards for good or improved attendance? Sometimes we just need to let them know you're on track, you're doing the right thing. And we really appreciate you for making sure that your child gets to school on time and every day. So those recognition postcards go a long way, and children would love to take a good note home and instead of always having to take bad notes home. So when we look at even type 4 can help with the attendance. When we look at interactive homework for students and family partners, they're going to create posters about why is it good for me to be in school every day? Why is important? Why is good attendance important? What is it about attendance that we really need to focus on? I mean, we're in school, we're enrolled in school. Do we have to come every day? Yes, you do. So we have to help them to get excited about coming to school and the work that we're doing in school. So if attendance is an issue, that is something that we can certainly address in our plan for engagement. Because remember, if the parents don't get them there, we can't teach them. So we need to help them to get them there and overcome all of the challenges and any obstacles that they might have, as you see listed in that type 1 at the top, where we're looking at the legal aspect of getting your child to school. Health service providers, maybe the children are not as well as they need to be, and they're sick a lot, out of school because they're sick a lot. All those kinds of things play into it, okay? In the last one for high school, we're looking at improving post-secondary planning. And we've talked about good old FOSFA, haven't we? So we know that's part of the story. But how many people have had trips to colleges where children are thinking going to college when they finish, or they're identifying whether college is going to be for them or whether I just want to go straight into a career? Whatever it is, we need to get them ready by exposing them to the things that they need before they leave us. So college and career goal planning. So videos, or they don't have videos now, well, they have what, YouTubes for families and students to learn about graduation requirements and post-secondary planning. And this is important because it should not, if I'm doing college and career, I should not be waiting until the 12th grade to do that. This should have been something that should have taken root back in middle school and all, to get them to start thinking when they get ready to finish school. And so, like I said, the field trips to the local colleges and universities for the children to see and to get an eye full of what happens on a college campus, those kinds of things that they can see. And then type 5, I really like this post-secondary planning committee of parents, teachers, and everyone who is going to be working with the students to conduct activities of college awareness and career option from grade 9 to 12. So we can do those kinds of things, but these are not the only activities that you can have. We have years and years of promising partnership practices and around these topics that you could certainly adopt to use for the schools. Okay, next slide, please, Joyce.
And you know, Brenda, I really like type 6 on this activity, because we've seen high schools that bring alumni back to the high school to talk with 9th, 10th, and 11th graders about how they made it through that very same school, sometimes in the same classroom, and had a really good career in college and then beyond. And it really is very motivating for students to see or hear from people who were in that very same school.
Our last Promising Partnership Practices books did have some alumni stories in there. So you can certainly look at those and see what did the alumni do when they went back home to help and support the students.
Right, right.
Thanks, Joyce.
Okay, so before we send you to a Zoom room, I want you to be thinking together as a whole group about what we mean by goal-linked activities. Brenda just took you through goal-linked options or samples of activities for reading, math, attendance, college, and careers. You could see that each one of these pages had examples from our regular, normal kind of school partners all across the country, and they were connecting the types of engagement to activities that were going to help them attain the goals from their school improvement plan. But sometimes the schools you work with will hear you say goal-linked activities and not really quite get what you were talking about. So as a group, I want to have you talk with me a moment before Brenda and Steve send you back to the Zoom room about what we mean by goal-linked, so that you'll be able to guide your schools to think about goal-linked activities rather than just any way of engaging families or the community. So in this little discussion activity, let's call it whole group activity, I'm looking for a volunteer who can tell me the following. What is a goal that teachers in a school you know are working on every day to improve either student achievement or behavior? What would be a connection to a family engagement activity to help reach this goal, the goal that the teachers are working on? And how might that activity for family engagement actually help reach that goal? So What is a goal that teachers are working on? What is a family engagement activity that might be conducted? Why or how might this activity actually help reach that goal? So who has an example of one that they know that teachers are working on?
Addressing chronic absenteeism.
Yes, absolutely. That would be a goal for behavior, right, Allison?
Yeah.
Goal for good behavior, and school behavior. Let's say that we were looking at an achievement goal and that we know that teachers at every grade level, really, there are teachers who are working to increase math skills, positive math attitudes. This is really important because many times parents often would say to a youngster, "Oh, but I wasn't very good in math either," as if that was something that they really are not going to get into. So how would we link a family engagement activity to math? And Brenda showed you several, but we saw one last year. I think it was in the Promising Practice book that I thought was very clever, easy to implement. And that was a family engagement activity where youngsters played with card games, and they tried it out in the classroom where they could really show how a game with cards could help them practice math skills. How would this help? By using the card games, they had a way to practice concepts like more and less, larger and smaller, addition, subtraction, multiplication, and basic math skills. So this is a goal-linked family engagement activity, just like on the pages that Brenda showed you. And this came last year from another school who was active in the network. But they tried it out first in class. They didn't just say, go home and do it. Because who was in charge of this family engagement activity? The students were. You're not expecting parents to teach math to children. So the youngsters were the ones who were going to show how to use a deck of cards. You have a 4 and I have a 2. The game we're playing is more than who wins that hand. You would win because you had a 4 and I had a 2. And while they're having fun playing card games, they are practicing math skills. So when you are asked about the connection, the connection that makes an activity for family engagement linked to a goal really becomes very important. So Brenda, do you want to go back and take people through where they're going to go for Zoom?
Yes. So let's take a look at we call this the web activity, where you look at the center of the web is where the goal is that you're going to be focusing on. In the center, you either pick an academic goal or pick a behavior goal, okay? And if you've come up with something other climate or partnership, you can put that on the line. But let's use what we see in the web and just check one. And then around the web, you see the 6 types of engagement that you talked about today in detail. Which one of those types would be a good activity that will support that goal that you selected in the middle, whether it's an academic goal or whether it's a behavioral goal? Then, and don't try to fill all 6 boxes in your group, because you're not going to have but 25 minutes to work on the activity. And some of you already are ahead of the game listening to the sharing from the first time around when you all shared from jumping hurdles. So when you look at the activities that you're going to talk about, select that goal and write something in at least, let's say at least 3 of those boxes.
I would say at least 4 of those boxes.
Okay, 4 of those boxes.
Maybe all 6, Brenda, maybe.
Oh, Joyce is being ambitious today. So if you can get something in all 6, great. But and be ready to share. So your recorder will be writing things down so that when it's time to share, you're going to tell us what goal you selected and which types of activity, which types of involvement your activities are leaning toward in supporting that goal.
Employment and the 3E, from the different 3Es. We talked about learning at home, bringing this back home, depending on the age group, having students actually do research on college websites and coming back and really, like, you know, especially younger folks, they're so much more fluent with technology, and really having them do like a scavenger hunt, trying to find something here, something there, but also interviewing family, friends, neighbors about what they do, what their career has been, how they planned, what that looked like, and having that be sort of done in concert with their caregivers. The decision-making piece, we talked about sort of being embedded throughout. So we really wanted this to be something that we talked to the caregivers about first and foremost, like, these are our goals, but you tell us, like, what's the best way we can reach your kids? What's the best way we can, you know, keep you in the loop? So in terms of decision-making, we really wanted to have that be sort of embedded throughout. We also talked at great length about not assuming that when we talk about post-secondary planning, that every parent and caregiver even has the language or baseline or understanding of what that means. And so recognizing that a big part of what we're doing is also providing education for our families. We used some examples, like I work with a lot of schools where we have a lot of newcomer families. So there's not only the language barrier, but there's just simply not a frame of reference for, you know, what is student loan debt? What is applying for college, right? So making sure that throughout this process, we're really keeping in mind and really having that feedback loop of, let's not assume that we're all starting from the same place. And so it might even be backing some of this work up and starting some, you know, leveraging in type 6 community partners for more basic levels of education, financial literacy, you know, planning for your child's future, these kinds of things. Can we bring in college admissions professionals to do like a pre-prep? What do you want to tell your 6th grader? What are the things they need to know if they want to become an astronaut? They need to start taking a lot of math right now, right? That sort of thing. So I think I covered it. Joey and Nicole, did I miss anything?
I think you covered it really well.
Good job. Very good job.
Yes, you were very, very, very thorough. Good job. Who was it? Jason. Jason was had his picture up. Jason, did you do an academic goal?
We didn't. We did a behavior one. So you're welcome to choose another group. But could I just say that Team Muncie was on like 0.5 font on some of these boxes. So we had a good talk. So thank you.
All right, good. Let's see. Michael Muller.
Yes.
What did you all do an academic goal?
No, I was with Jason's. We did the behavioral.
Oh, okay.
So we had Allison's group and Jason's group. Who's the third group? Did they do an academic?
Our group with Wendy and Tony, we did, and Courtney, they did a behavior goal as well. They did attendance. They had a good job with attendance too.
So everybody did behavioral goal. You know, this group of people, all of you folks have been really super clever and right on target. So do you want to hear one of the other? We heard about attendance, and the post-secondary planning goal would be very appropriate. I think that Alice had mentioned that they were focusing on a middle school grade. Is that right, Allison?
Yes. Yeah. For the sake of this activity. Yes.
And
Yes,
you know,
good
it's never too early to focus on post-secondary planning. You don't want to wait till 11th grade. So that was a really good decision on your group's part. Also, I really like the way that you and probably others really gave students a star standing in what you were doing. It really is all about the students, and having them either participate or on type 4, you said they could interview people. That would be students love to interview people. even students who don't do homework on most days will interview people, and anything you can do on either an academic or a behavioral goal that lets the students in type 4 at home focus in some way that interacts with family or neighbors or community people, to interview them about the particular topic really is a very successful activity that we've seen across the board.
Yeah, I can share. And I also just want to say that the group that just presented and started in 6th grade, I'm obsessed with the example you gave about Bess Goes to Work. So that little mascot and getting pictures at the different positions at maybe like a hospital or something, so students can see, you know, it's not just a doctor or a nurse, you know, there's lots of different positions within the hospital. And we're really focused on the career part of it and how to infuse that all the way back into like kindergarten readiness, preschool. So that's, I'm obsessed with that example. I've already texted it to multiple people. So
it's a wonderful and adaptable example, because today you would not use a disposable camera, you would use your phone.
Yeah.
Right? And but it's really adaptable and can be redesigned in a way that would fit whatever you're really trying to focus on. I love that activity too. So what's the best example you had, Courtney, in your group for the behavioral goal that you all chose to focus on?
We had attendance and lots of different examples, but I think like we had letters going home to parents. So at the beginning of the year, letters would go home to parents about the importance of attendance. And then every month there was a reminder in the newsletter about ways that make sure your child's there, anything from hygiene reminders to have a plan in case something were to come up the day of school, you know, and a car issue or something along those lines. And so just kind of preparing parents for, you know, these real life events that could happen, but still getting your child to school is extremely important. And then Wendy was sharing at their school, they do a 5-7-9 communication plan where the phone calls will go to parents, you know, if there's absence for 5 days, 7, 9. And then Brenda was really making us think, okay, how do we get more proactive in the sense that we have workshops at the beginning of the school year. We have a parent panel to kind of help set the stage of why attendance is important, but also kind of, we really talked about building this culture of support for parents. And so having parents think about, like, it's not just important for my child to get to school, it's important for all children to get to school. Exactly. And having those conversations and how do we help each other and kind of lean on each other and ask advice and yeah, that was kind of the biggest thing.
Very, very well done. You know, this past week, I think it was yesterday or the day before, I heard a story on Morning Edition, I think it was, and they were talking about kind of adopted, or I think it would be like adopted grandparents in schools. This links to way back when we had our first volunteer of your group today. They were talking about grandparents being active. These grandparents formed a kind of a club that called children in the morning for a wake-up call. And they were calling high school kids as a wake-up call. We used to joke about that people would call youngsters to get them to come to school, but these were actually purposely calling them for a wake-up call to say, "Good morning, you're my adopted grandchild," or "I'm your." They had a better word than adopted, but you know, you're my volunteered high school youngster. Are you up? Have a great day. And that's all they really had to say. And then they called the next folks. So they were doing a very retro phone kind of tree to call youngsters in high school to get them to make sure they were up and ready to go to school, which is a retro idea, but it sure seemed to be working in that particular school. I got a kick out of that. So you all did a very good job on these 2 activities that we had for you in Zoom rooms today. You talked together you talked with each other very well, and you came up with some really good examples. Would they work in the schools you're working with? Well, maybe or maybe not, but they would be good examples in your workshop to help people see what you mean by goal linked. So I think, Brenda, they got the idea really well, don't you?
I think they're ready for the competency for this one, Joyce, because
Right, so
like you
here's
say, it's getting them ready for when they do the training for their schools
Right.
will be ready.
So we're up to competency checklist number 2, topic 2. You know, reaching results in our work together today, we also were showing you that when we or you run a workshop for schools, we move from an easy topic to a harder topic to the hardest topic. So the easy topic today was the 6 types and meeting challenges, because people really need to know what's the structure under there, how can they think about these activities, realizing, as you all did, that almost any activity is not a pure type. It was really a mixture of several types of engagement to have a good activity. So you all caught on to that very well. And then this topic, you really did a very good job of thinking about goal-linked activities. So we're finishing up for the day. You've done a great job. You are a really special group, very, very, very communicative with each other and with us. We love it. We want you to take a minute and write any question that you have in the chat box now that you want to talk about in our last few minutes together, using the framework of 6 types, meeting challenges, reaching results. That's what we talked about today. We want to know, do you have any questions? You're going to write your questions in the chat box now, and Steve and Brenda are going to review them and we'll talk about them. Or any other question that came up as we talked about our research base or the theoretical model of overlapping spheres. What questions came up today? I want to talk to you about our next steps. First, before you leave, we would like all of you, or each of you, to please write in the chat box now, along with your question, one aha moment from today's information that really struck you. We heard Courtney say her aha moment was the best goes to work activity. That could be one, but you had other aha moments. Please write your aha moment in the chat box along with your question that is still on your mind. We're going to see you tomorrow, March 13, that's Wednesday, at 2 p.m., same time, same Zoom, to complete how you will run a workshop for schools. That's one of your main leadership activities. Otherwise, knowledge stays in your head and in your office. That's not what we have in mind. So we want knowledge to end up on school-based teams, and that's what we're going to think about. So Brenda, what do you see in questions or in aha moments that you would like to share with everybody?
I see some thank yous and no questions just yet.
How about aha? Anyone? Aha.
Oh, Allie has an aha. Thanks, Allie. My aha moment, the example of where local businesses incentivized and moved. Wait a minute. Incentivize improved attendance for students through vouchers or prizes. She says, I'm thinking book it for attendance. And now I have dated myself.
You know, who wrote that, Allison?
Allison wrote that one.
Allison, you know, that was another one of my favorite activities. We didn't mention it in the presentation, but that was a type 6 activity that business partners can really provide what we call a gold card. It's sort of like a credit card, and it lasts for one report card period. And it identifies students in that period who not had perfect attendance. We really don't focus on perfect because people get sick, but improved attendance or reaching a level of good attendance. And they are awarded this gold card from a collaborating business, or more than one may be distributed. And it only lasts one report card period, but it gives students and their families a 10% off, or whatever the business would like to say, 20% off, or free this or free that, for that period of time for meeting an attendance goal. And it's a really very collaborative community partnership activity on attendance. So they are helping the school or district recognize that there are some kids, if they were absent, chronically absent, the prior report card, and this period they had only one absence, they would be an improved absence record, and they would earn a gold card. The gold cards are actually really valuable to students and their parents if they're at a local fast food place or a shoe store or wherever, would be really a valuable 10%, 20% discount. So
We have some more, Joyce.
I like that too. What else, Brenda?
Tony Perkins says, I really love the parent-teacher collaboration dinner for teachers idea. So there, that was a good aha moment for her. Anthony Williams says, aha, just in general, the 6 types of involvement really allows us to take a goal and plan from the lens of the community, parent, and educator support.
Very good, yes.
Yes.
So we love to see these aha moments because we still learn from all of the sites that work with us, and we hope you will all continue to do that. We'll learn from you too, and you provide us with a lot of aha moments, and that's a reason for carrying on. So that's—
Yeah, Michael said getting parents involved in pre-planning made a light bulb go off.
That's a good one.
Yes.
That one is tough. You got to really really think that through. But I really like the idea of, I forget exactly who was your volunteer, Brenda, but they said, you know, ask parents what would work in a message to your child. I really like that activity. That was an aha for me today.
Yes. Yeah. Appreciated the thought of creating a post-secondary culture starting in the 1st grade. And that was Nicole.
Yeah. And
yes.
That's really helpful. And, you know, kids love to just think ahead. You don't want kids to finalize their thoughts in kindergarten, but,
right.
You know, playing with all kinds of jobs and roles and positions is really always exciting. Brenda, do you remember the one that was kindergarten or preschool that had truck day?
Oh, okay.
Truck day. Truck day was a day when they were exploring all of the jobs of different kinds of trucks that the kids see in their community, where, you know, it was the well, these days it would be the Amazon truck and the mail truck and the trash truck and so on. But having the kids be able to get in and climb in and ride in all of these trucks was quite a day. I remember them all parked around the parking circle in the front of the school, and having just a great day about all the different ways that trucks help us. I don't know that they were all trying to say that kids can be all different kinds of truck drivers, but I think they were suggesting that there are many ways trucks help us in our community.
Yes.
So many, you know, we always joke that we could not imagine or think about or dream up the clever activities that the schools and district leaders and regional leaders like you are going to be for your projects. We couldn't dream them up. And if we did dream them up, we couldn't tell a school you had to do X, Y, or Z because they wouldn't listen. So it really has to be an organic process that grows out of knowledge. And that's what we're trying to help you with on these three parts of occasions of this Leadership Institute. So we are going to let you go early today. You earned the early dismissal. And anything else, Steve, that you want to add?
No, it was a pleasure sitting in the first breakout room. Thank you for letting me listen and talk a little bit. And I look forward to seeing everyone tomorrow afternoon.
Right, and if you have other aha moments, you can save them for tomorrow. We're going to ask you again. And then we're going to see you same time, 2 o'clock, same Zoom link. And take a look and see, I sent to all of you the activities for part 2 of our work together. Today, at the end of today, before we leave here, we're going to send you the activities that you will use on day or part 3. So we didn't want to confuse you. We sent parts 1 and 2. And now we're going to send you part 3 that you will bring on Thursday to work on the last part of this institute, which really focuses completely on your leadership. We look forward to seeing you tomorrow. See you later. Have a good evening.
Everyone enjoy. Thanks. It's been a pleasure.